we feel the sense of wonder in the earth's unfolding in renewal. And we feel wonder about the human condition, the magnitude of the fact that we are here at all. May we continue toward expanding our sense of amazement at the beauty to be found in nature and to cherish the many differences we see there. May we be amazed at the miraculous and diverse ways that we present as being human, and at the many gifts to discover in our differences. May we live as simply as the child, holding each day in wonder. Our shared silence is a blessing.
"50-50" with an organization. Here at Westminster, we share our plate 50-50 with an organization whose mission aligns with our values. Our recipient this month is a farmer's market from the Sharing Locker. The other half of the offering goes to support the good work of this community. You may donate using the link that is now being posted in the chat.
For our reading, Reverend Mary and I will take words out of the Gray Hymnal. It's Sarah Moore Campbell's responsive reading, number 644. Give us the child who lives with the Spirit within.
The child who trusts, the child who imagines and sings,
Who receives without reservation and gives without judgment,
give us a child's eyes,
that we may receive the beauty and the freshness of this day,
give us a child's ears,
that we may hear the music of creation,
a child's heart, that we may be filled with wonder and delight,
a child's faith, that we may be cured of our cynicism,
give us the spirit of the child,
who is not afraid to need, who is not afraid to love. After I completed a teaching apprenticeship, I was ready to go out and get a job teaching English. But there was a problem that in the state of Maine, there were almost no teaching jobs in English or history. If I'd been a sports coach, I might have had a chance. So I was beginning to look around to where I could move or what else I could do with my life when my mom called me, and she told me that she had fallen and broken her leg in 11 places. She'd tried to save a toddler from getting too close to the water, and her foot caught in a stair and she fell on rocks. The afternoon of her accident, the emergency room doctor said, "You'll never walk again." So she called and said, "Will you come home and help me?" Well, at 21, I moved back home with my parents, and my dad had just finished taking a carpentry course at the technical college. So he was bound to make small pieces of furniture in the dining room where my mother's hospital bed was. So you could say, well, what possessed us? But really, our little shenanigans kept her mind off her injury. So every morning, I got breakfast and cleaned up the dishes. And then I started making phone calls to people who were friends or places who could mentor me about what I could do with my life. And it turned out that there were a lot of positions in special education. So all I had to do was go earn a new certificate. Well, lucky for me, the university was just up the road a piece, as we say in Maine. And I just commuted every day and spent my mornings at the university and then came home and played nurse again for mom. And by the year's end, I earned my new certificate and I immediately got a job. It was a small one-room classroom in the poorest county in Maine at the time. So this special education classroom had kids who were mostly malnourished, and they were really restless from the hunger and all the other instabilities of living in poverty. So I have to say, my first year of teaching, the kids taught me. And I would say, just like when to laugh and when to be serious, like plenty of antics went on, but I had to learn to just chill a little bit. And then it was really important for me to learn how to state consequences and when to notice, when they'd had it with one topic and they needed to move on. So all these things were a curve. I think the best trick was learning to whisper when they were wound up, because somehow whispering soothes the little souls. So watching them negotiate their challenges just got me to sit back and think, wow, did I have it easy? I mean, these kids didn't have enough warm winter clothing. They didn't have regular hot meals, and they didn't have any dental care. Some of our children came to school after getting about 3 hours of sleep. And that was because they helped their parents earn a living, which, isn't uncommon, but this was shucking clams in the middle of the night, and their little hands were all red and raw, and their eyes were bloodshot, and they were hungry. So we fed them and gave them the most predictable hours, probably, of their days. And I learned to love every one of them. Only 2 of the children came from financially stable homes. One was a child with Down syndrome, and her parents taught her to read at the 3rd grade level, which was at the time thought impossible. Vicky could read, and she gave the best hugs. And then there was little Carla. She was 6 years old, and I was to be her tutor, but she had inherited a condition that gave her severe seizures. Carla was beautiful, but she was fragile. The thing that got to me was her eyes. They had such persistence in them. She looked to us for direction, and in our first months together, she learned to write half of the letters of the alphabet, and she was so proud. By Thanksgiving, she could write her own name. She could pour her own juice. She could whack at a wiffle ball in the schoolyard. And then there might be another week where just the sight of the wiffle ball would set her off, and she couldn't concentrate anymore, or she couldn't even hold her pencil. So we had to stop and go on to other activities. Carla's temperament was sunny, which earned her a lot of stickers and M&Ms, which was kind of the go-to for teachers' toolkits in the 1970s. She would stockpile all these goodies. And then when the bus would come, she'd run and give them all away to the neediest kids. Somehow she knew which ones. So just after we'd gotten halfway through learning the letters of the alphabet, Carla had a grand mal seizure. And she had to take weeks in recovery, of course. And just before she came back, her mom called me to say that she had forgotten how to write those letters. So I learned that that was her challenge, to learn and forget and then start all over again. When she arrived back at school, she got out of the car and was determined to get to the door all by herself. So limping away, but with persistence, she got to the door and she saw me and she said, "Alphabet, alphabet, Miss Foster." So our time together was really packed because we took advantage of every day that was her best. So one Monday morning, her mom called and said that Carla had a cold and she wouldn't be in. And that was the day that the superintendent chose to call me in and say, "We have to cut your position." I was making a little over minimum wage. And yet he said to me, "We are under a lot of pressure from our parents, but we really just can't justify your pay because, especially since she's not going to live that much longer." So my mind went to another decision he'd made, and that was not to mainstream our children, which was a choice that all superintendents had. But he placed us in a separate location altogether, and it was a condemned building. He assigned us to this place that had a boiler that was a fire hazard. So part of our reality was every week we took all the kids out for fire drills. I decided to speak my mind. And so I said, "I respectfully question your reason for not offering tutoring because Carla wants to learn just like everyone else. Maybe your top achieving male students are not worthy because they get into car crashes most often." So he said, "Well, I'm talking budgets here." And I just said, "Carla is the best teacher you have. She teaches what's most important, to be kind and generous, and she has a sense of who's in need. And after her seizures, she just comes back in and begins all over again. And the kids really look up to her." Well, he said he had a call coming in, so I was dismissed. The principal of the elementary school saved my position. Mr. Clements was a longtime member of the Searsport community, and he knew the family. He knew the mom's sister who had had the condition. He just knew people, and the superintendent didn't know us. So I stayed the full year of my contract. And in spite of the fact that, I had Mr. Clements' kindness backing me, I still had to work weekends because I had a rusty bucket of a car and I had the third floor tenement rent to pay. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy starting out, but I came home from work and cried a lot because it just got to me that these kids might never escape this kind of poverty. I'd find my way out with lots of Mr. Clements by my side, but they would need 2 and 3 and 4 people in order to get them out of that life. And meanwhile, I was learning their truth, that poverty is the hardest job in America. Carla wasn't supposed to live 8 years, but I checked in regularly because I loved her so. And 10 years after my work with her, she just living in a new group home, and she was wearing a pink helmet, and she was motoring around with her walker, being kind of a busybody, like she always had been. And she was giving away snacks at this time and trinkets to all the other people who were the loneliest in the residency. So, when I was working with Carla, I was trying to be an adult and wrestling with issues that everyone has. And I remember watching how her personality and her character gave her a kind of muscle that I just hadn't built. And I saw her doing things like, well, here's my renewed outlook. I'm going to tackle this again. And she was never discouraged by her physical limitations. She just always dwelled on possibility, never on loss. She had dreams to play baseball like her brother. And even trying to keep up with kids in the hallway, she just was persistent. And all those daily acts of goodwill just build her adaptability and her way of thriving in this shifting landscape that was her life. I remember one day she got a reward for free time and she chose to go to the little playroom where we had blocks. And so she made a house out of the blocks and she made an imaginary kitchen in there in the little imaginary door. And then she got her baby doll up in the high chair and she began to feed the baby doll with a little plate of peas, but it was one of those shaky days and the peas, which were round buttons, rolled off the plate and they bounced and went directly out the imaginary door. Well, I thought she'd cry, but no, she giggled. And I'd never heard her laugh so loud. So there it was. She was role modeling again. And I learned you can actually laugh at yourself. I'm pretty sure that slinging peas out the door was something that she and her brother had thought of before. It's behind her parents' backs. But there was such irony in the fact that they went out the door that we were just having good old-fashioned fun, and it was ridiculous fun, right? That was when I remembered a colleague of mine saying, you might do something ridiculous today, and you might be so embarrassed that you'll want to run and hide. But, you'll sit there and you'll say, someday I'll find this funny and I'll laugh. And her advice is, why wait? If you have any doubts about the value of laughing at yourself, think about the time you saw a comedy and you thought, oh my gosh, I'm that guy. So here's a little spice from science. Playfulness is related to good health. It's, people using playfulness in social situations, joking around, easing tensions, they spread cheer and they're feeding people's hearts and they're building strong relationships. So, and the science is also saying that it makes you live longer. Carla was all around playful. She wanted to slug a ball on the baseball field, and she knew she was not going to be perfect at it. And that got me asking, wow, what about dropping perfectionism? That would be epic. It turns out that being perfect at things isn't really the point. It's contrary to what I grew up with. You had to do the job right or not at all. But, just having different experiences makes you a more interesting person, just gaining a few skills here and there. And, a lot of us learned exactly that you didn't do something unless you could win. So I started thinking about doing things because I enjoy them. And it changes our lives after all. And it is fun to get good at things, but try it, whatever, right? Learning from Carla, I resolved to be like a child and not think about my limitations. I'm just going to keep plugging and be playful and laugh at shortcomings. Being determined was her kind of best card she played. And even if she forgot something, she would just sit down and learn it again. So I was thinking about all she taught me. And it reminded me of a couple of the areas that Norbert Chopik, one of our Unitarian heroes, said about religious education. He thought it most important to teach youth how to build both their faith and their confidence. And he emphasized this practice of charity or selfless love and kindness. In these days of seeing the shocking images of war just repeatedly on our screens, we seem to carry the violence on ourselves and feel helpless about doing something. I've been cultivating the habit of thinking of people I love and admire, their best qualities, like Carla's, her kindness, and how it changed the spirit of our little school. And so in her memory, I send out loving kindness. It's a sweet practice that many of you do, I'm sure, but whether or not it reaches others across the waters, it often feels just transformative. When we take a breath of peace, we can send it out with our hope for a more compassionate world, and it just feels like a little victory. My mom, after prolonged weeks of physical and occupational therapy, began to walk again, much to the surprise of all the physicians and everyone else. She walked every day right into her mid-80s, around the neighborhood, up the church steps, down the camp road, just spreading her positive attitude and sunny personality before she left this side of life. Carla spread her kindness and determination for 28 years. That's 3.5 times the average for a person with her condition. I'm forever grateful to them and all the other childlike spirits in my life. And we'll see your young spirits in the photos of the slideshow during the postlude. There's always time for fun in a UU church. Picasso said it would take me a lifetime to be the best big kid I could be. And I keep working at it so that I can hear my granddaughter or the other littles in my life tell me again, Silva, that's what my granddaughter calls me, Silva. You're much more fun to play with than the other kids. May we have a child's eyes and live with a whole world of wonder inside. May it be so.
May it be so. Our closing hymn this morning is number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on with courage ever high. Spirits join as we fly to touch the earth, to reach the sky. Before we speak our closing words together and then sing Carry the Flame, here's an invitation for you. We'll be having a recessional right afterwards, right after. A recessional slideshow, that is, right after we sing. And you'll have a chance to see all of the photos you shared. And so on to the closing words. They are in the chat and in the order of service, so please join in. Go in peace. Speak truth. Give thanks each day. Respect the earth and all creatures, for they are alive like you. Care for your body. It is a wondrous gift. Be gentle with yourself. Live simply. Be of service. Be guided by your faith and not your fear. Go lightly on your way. Walk in a sacred manner.